This is the Honda CB1000R Black Edition, so if you're thinking about buying this motorcycle, watch this video. Now, one thing I must say about this motorcycle, it's blindingly fast. It really is seriously quick. Yet saying that, if you're burbling around the town, commuting in the traffic and what have you, it's a very smooth engine, and from low RPM it will pull effortlessly. I mean, it won't complain at all, but when you get on it and get the revs going, this bike really flies. So make sure you see the video all the way to the end, because there's some interesting points that we're going to make.
The Honda CB1000R starts at £12,999. That's for the Black Edition that we've got here, so that's a little bit more of a special edition. The standard version, can't seem to find any prices of that, but the previous 2020 model was 11,649, and that comes in 3 different colours: red, black and silver. So we're not quite sure what the price of that is, but I'm sure it'll be released soon.
I'm 6'2", and you can gauge from looking at me how big the bike is. To be honest, it feels okay to ride, and the riding position's fine. It's not too laid forwards, so you're halfway between being upright and being prone. So it's quite comfortable actually. The seat's very nice, it's quite firm. You've got this back bit which comes off. It's good to have that because it's so fast, you could easily be off the back end of it if you're not careful.
The performance of this bike is pretty outstanding. It produces 143 horsepower at 10,500 RPM. And to be honest with you, even at half of that RPM, at 6,000 or something, 5,000, it still produces a lot of power. So if you are riding up at 10,500 RPM, hats off to you. This engine also produces 104 Newton meters of torque, or 76 foot-pounds of torque for our American friends, and that's at 8,250 RPM, so it's got a fair amount of torque for this sort of revvy engine. Let us know what you think of this bike so far in the comment section below. Would you choose this bike over the other options out there, or would you choose something else? And if you would choose something else, let us know what it is.
They've got 6 gears. On the Black Edition you've got the quick shifter. To be honest with you, I haven't been using the quick shifter because I ride so many motorbikes, including my own, and I don't want to get used to a quick shifter because you forget you have to use the clutch on a normal bike. With the quick shifter you don't, you can just change gear, keep it pinned open. It's very fast, but it will still change normally if you want it to.
Now there's 3 important figures with this bike that account for its extremely sharp handling, and that is the 25-degree rake, the 100mm trail and the short wheelbase of 1455mm. And those 3 figures combined is what accounts for this bike's really sharp handling. And normally with bikes that have that sort of degree of rake and the short wheelbase are quite twitchy. But this bike is not twitchy at all, so do not worry about it being twitchy. It's just very, very sharp handling without the twitchiness, so it's still stable at speed.
Now these bikes turn so sharply. I always do this when I test ride a bike just to get a feel for the handling, and the bike will do it quicker than you can imagine, and it's all about quick steering bikes like this. And it's got very good grip too, so let's test the brakes. I mean, it really does pull up well, so these brakes are phenomenal. This bike does everything, and does everything really well. This you've got 3 modes: standard, sport and rain, and there's also a user configurable mode where you can change the settings. I'm not a mode fan particularly, but they sort of give you the different levels of traction control and throttle responsiveness depending on the conditions you're riding in.
The seat height on the Honda is 830 millimeters, and I am 6'1", and this bike feels plenty roomy enough. It doesn't feel too small at all, but we are on a slight slope here, so that might give a false impression of the dimensions, but honestly it doesn't feel small at all. Turning circle on this bike isn't very good, to be honest, so if you are manoeuvring about in a car park or in your garage, you might find a little bit of trouble there, doing lots of shunting, but that's just nitpicking.
Now the screen on this does loads of stuff as you'd expect it to, but the thing is, this bike is so blindingly fast that if you look at the screen, you'll travel 100 meters by the time you look up again and you'll crash. So there's no point in having anything on the screen. All you need is a speedometer and the rev counter, and a small glance is all you're going to do, so it doesn't matter what it says on there, to be honest.
The weight of the CB1000R is 213 kilos, and it doesn't feel heavy at all. It's very nimble, especially once you get going. You don't notice any weight at all, to be honest.
Now the mirrors aren't that brilliant, to be honest. They're not really wide enough, so I can see about 1/8 of the road just in the corner of the mirror. But if you were shorter than me, if you were about 5'10", 5'9", you'd probably find they'd be okay. The suspension on this is very good. It's a foam ride, of course, but a very nice ride, and it's adjustable front and rear.
Now in this review, we're trying to give you the essence of the bike. As with all of our reviews, like if we rattle off all the specs, it will just be boring. You can find all of those specs on Honda's website, so if you want to know all the nitty-gritty details, they are on Honda's website. So we're just trying to give you that essence of the bike, and the true essence of this bike is that it's blindingly quick, and you need to have a big pair of you-know-whats to be able to handle all of the power that this bike has got. And if you do have it in sport mode, maybe even if standard, if you snap that throttle open, you will be up on the back wheel. So you do really need to be careful with this bike.
So as you can see, we're at 2000 RPM, just trundling along. And if I just open the throttle a bit, it's responsive and it's not bogging down at all. So everyday riding is certainly very pleasant. Now, of course, this bike handles extremely well. It's a very nimble motorcycle. It's not at all twitchy, which is great. It will change direction like a squirrel being chased by a fox. It's incredible. And it holds the road very well indeed. So if you're the sort of rider who wants to carve up the corners, you'll love it. So if you've got one of these bikes, or if you're thinking of getting one, let us know what you think. And if you've got any questions, don't forget to ask.
The headlights on this bike are pretty good in the dark, so you shouldn't have too much trouble if you're riding at night.
The brakes on this are incredible. They really do stop you ever so well, and they need to, because the speeds you'll be going on this bike, you need good brakes. All that power and all that incredible handling, you'll be very, very pleased with this. This is fantastic. And it's ever so sharp. It will turn wherever you want it to, and you can direct this bike exactly where you want it to go, and after a bit of time with it, you get faster and faster and more confident, and it really will take the bends beautifully.
Inline-four that's fitted to this motorcycle sounds absolutely fantastic. Even with the stock pipes that we've got on this model here, it does sound really good. It sounds like a mini Ferrari, to be honest, because it's a 4-cylinder and Ferraris are high-pitched V8s. The half the cylinders, it sounds pretty similar. If you had an aftermarket exhaust on here, I think it would really, really scream.
Now Now, being the Black Edition, everything almost is blacked out, even this bit here. So it really is a stylish looking bike. I do like it. And if you're into modern looking motorcycles, this is fantastic. I would say if you're a beginner rider, if you've just passed your license, your A license in the UK or in Europe, you could certainly ride this bike, but you would need to be extremely careful. It's probably not the ideal bike because it is very powerful. And in the matter of a second or two, you can get yourself into some serious difficulty if you're opening the throttle. So it's probably not the ideal beginner's bike unless you're taking it very gingerly. And I did say at low revs around the town, it's fine. But it will shift, and it will shift so fast, you need to be knowing what you're doing.
Now, the old man, who's predominantly a cruiser rider, wasn't really expecting to enjoy this bike, but he actually said that he really enjoyed it and was quite surprised by how fun it was. So if you are, even if you are an old fart like my dad, you might enjoy this bike more than you expect you would.
So if you are a beginner, get something smaller, maybe the 650R, which is a very nice bike, also very, very fast, but this is just that little bit more fast. And if you were to going one level further than that, you'd obviously go for the Fireblade. So this is a kind of a midway point. And if that's your sort of route, then 650, 1000 and the Fireblade, that's a good stepping stone. You've got a cable clutch, you can see it moving here. Gives you a lovely direct feel, so I like that very much indeed. Give us a thumbs up if you like this bike, and also give us a thumbs up if you like this video. We've got lots of other bikes coming soon, so make sure you subscribe, because if you don't, you could miss some incredible gems that are coming.
If you like the look of our t-shirts, make sure you check them out. They're in the carousel below. There's lots of designs on the website, and it really helps us out.
Just thinking how pretty it looked around here with the road verges all flowering like this. But I've noticed already Leicestershire County Council are out with their mowers, so no doubt within a few days they'll mow all this down. It'll look like a stripy bowling green as usual, and it's a terrible shame because it's ever so nice to see. They say it's to do with safety. That's absolute BS, because you can see perfectly well, and when they do cut it, they leave all the cuttings on the sides, and if you do happen to come off the road to let a car pass, it's like going onto ice when there's road cuttings, grass cuttings. So I wish they'd just leave it alone and let nature take its course. It's very beautiful, but no doubt we'll come up here in a few days time doing a video and it'll all be gone.
We're going to wrap this video up now because it looks like it's about to chuck it down with rain, and we'll probably get struck by lightning in a minute. So let us know below what you think of this bike if you haven't done already, and subscribe for plenty more content.